Well, we need the people who understand the language and the case law in the country. Because what qualifies as hate speech, as illegal hate speech, which you will have soon also in the US. I think that we have a strong reason why we have this in the criminal law. We need the platforms to simply work with the language and to identify such cases. The AI would be too dangerous as illegal hate speech, which you will have soon also in the US.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
In the past on this channel, we've tried to stay away from deep into the politics and into issues that we find our viewers are interested in. Parts of it, we went through the fandoms and stuff like that. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. Right now, I think we are on the course that is right where people do want to hear what we're talking about, about the adult industry, censorship, age verification laws, and unusual stories that we normally put out. The one thing that we keep pushing and we keep telling you is to beware. Be weary of what is going on and those who are the ones that are doing this to you and to all of us. And they know that one thing about the United States of America is that this is the last stepping stone. If they're able to crush us, they take over the world. We are the last line of defense of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all that is in our Constitution and more, because there are those who want to drive to a one world order. And even Elon Musk says it's the wrong thing to do. And the guys who we're talking about is the World Economic Forum. And if you've seen them, they've had several meetings throughout the years. If you see this, the media just touch bases with this. But when you look at guys like Rebel News and a couple of other outlets that are fighting to ask the proper questions to these elites. I saw, there was a great comedy movie, Undercover Brother, where they talk about the man. They say, we gotta fight against the man. The man here is not just one person. It is a group of people with a lot of money. Dangerous people. Because you see what they're doing lately. When you look at someone like Klaus Schwab, who sounds something out of a freaking World War II movie, to Bill Gates, who's completely out of shape, is trying to tell people what to eat, when to eat it, and you're going to eat it and like it, especially bugs on that, and especially a lot of processed food. One of the major things that they do, and this is one of the things that we focus on this channel, is when they talk about hate speech, misinformation. Who deems that? Who deems that you claims on there? We have a constitution here. When you look at, and a lot of people don't realize this, and educate yourselves on this. It's not once, it's not twice, it's several times this has been challenged in courts in the United States, especially in the Supreme Court level. Hate speech, according to the Constitution, according to the Supreme Court, doesn't exist. You cannot infringe on someone's speech, no matter whether you think it's racist or anything. You can't be, and you say, well, that's not fair. Any racist guy, but that's their words. That's, until they pick up a weapon to harm you, that's when it becomes illegal. So you notice the difference. Words are words. Anyone can say anything. You could sit down, you know, and the thing about it is that a lot of these knuckleheads, they say, you know, what determines hate speech? If I say, if I'm, you know, and I joke around on this, if I'm a Yankee fan, I hate the Mets on that, can I go to jail for that? Guys have gone to jail for off-color jokes. Guys have gone to jail for praying silently. Think about that for a minute. And on top of that, remember, there are guys who want to change the obscenity rules here in the United States prior to 1973. That means the Miller test gets thrown in the garbage. The Miller's test has been very important. For the reason is, all that comedy that you've had, all the adult films and everything, the freedom of speech in newspapers and on television, in the square, in our universities, that's all come because of the Constitution. There are those for many years, for many decades actually, who have tried to stifle it. And we're seeing this again we see these in groups. If you go back and you see in the Hollywood forms, the Hays Code. If you remember what the Hays Code is, it was a code, and this is before the Motion Picture Association. They used to tell you what you can, can't do, can't say in motion picture and television. And these were rules done by politicians, clergy, that all got together and wrote these rules, and you can look it up online. Look at the rules that they have on there. Now we're seeing a reinterpretation of it in Hays Code 2.0, and now it's being done by the Academy of Motion Pictures, which it's starting to go into effect, and they're telling you who to hire, what your movies should be made, you know, what type of movies you should be making at this point. That's not freedom. That's basically, you're stifling the freedom. You're stifling the expression on there. But like I said, the World Economic Forum, they want to go after your speech. And you know, no matter what you think of Breitbart or anything like that, they wrote an interesting article on this recently. And this is a couple of weeks back on there. So this is back when the World Economic Forum was meeting. The United States will soon follow Europe in implementing laws against so-called hate speech, a top Eurocrat claimed at the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. The Vice President for Values and Transparency for the European Commission, Vera, please forgive if I mispronounce your name, Jourova, predicted on Tuesday that hate speech laws will be imposed upon the American public despite the long-standing case law at the Supreme Court protecting speech under the First Amendment. See, this is what they want to do. They want to eliminate the First Amendment. Think about that for a moment. Illegal hate speech, which will have you soon also in the U.S. I think we have a strong reason why we have to have this in criminal law, Jourova says. The Czech politician who previously served as the European Commissioner for the Justice, Consumers, and Gender Equality made the comments during a WEF panel hosted by former CNN host Brian Stelter on the clear and present danger of disinformation. The choice of Stelter may perhaps be viewed by some as ironic given his own relationship with the truth. That is correct. The panel also featured New York Times Chairman Arthur Gregg Schultzberg, Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton, and Internews CEO Jeanette Bourgeault. Representative Moulton seemed to agree with the statement from the EU commissioning VP, telling her, "I think that in general, the U.S. has a lot to learn in the terms of data regulation, internet regulations. You're way ahead of us in that regard. However, the Democratic politician later clarified that he did not believe that the American politicians were ready to forsake the fundamental aspects of the freedom of speech. The comments from Jor came amid the backdrop of the ongoing dispute between the European Union and the new Twitter boss, Elon Musk, over his publicity-stated comments to free speech, which has ruffled the feathers in Brussels. Indeed, Journover herself commented on the matter to the Euroactive on Tuesday, saying that the platform should partner with the EU on combating hate speech and disinformation, saying we need platforms to work with language to identify these such cases. She says that the European Union laws surrounding online speech will be enforced, saying they apply to Twitter regulations of who owns it should not underestimate our efforts to make big platforms responsible. See, this is the thought patterns that they have. We have Section 230, and most of these outlets, Google, Twitter, all that, have violated them. You know, you saw the Senate subcommittee hearings where they said Twitter had barred experts in the medical field from Harvard, UCLA, and many others. These are experts, and deemed it misinformation, that they were doing misinformation. How can it be misinformation if they're experts in the field? Especially one of them who happened to have created the mRNA, who's the father of the type of science that they're talking about. That's like saying, you know, if you let Edison not talk about the light bulb, because what he says is misinformation, even though he created it. He created it. He knows better than anyone. But see, this is when you put information in the hands of people that don't want other people to educate themselves, this is what happens. Regulators are already closely monitoring the compliance with these applicable data protection rules and will be able to enforce Digital Service Act later this year, Giovanna added. The Digital Service Act, which came into force in November, greatly expanded the digital ability of Brussels to police so-called hate speech and disinformation through the addition of punishments mechanisms against the internet platforms that fail to abide by the block rules. Should companies like Twitter fail to comply with the DSA as of February of 2024, the EU will be able to impose fines up to 6% of their global revenue and even possibly abandon the platform altogether. You know what I say? Let's pull these sites back. Let's pull them back. Let people find it through VPNs. Let them use VPNs. Because let me tell you something. What they want to impose at Davos is the nightmarian totalitarianism that you kind of expect. You know, we discussed in another video that we said, you know, people talk about George Orwell, 1984. We're getting more closer to something like Clockwork Orange. There's a great video on YouTube, a guy who disseminates that, the way things are going. And he gives a great dissemination of the similarities of what was put in that movie and what came out of the book. Because all this is control. These guys, they just want to control our lives. You're seeing what's happening with our children as far as education-wise. I brought up an article that was in Baltimore, and we're going to be doing an episode on this. I'm trying to put it together. 23 schools in Baltimore are failing math and reading scores. They're below the standard level of education. I believe, 50 in Illinois, 50 schools in Illinois. I think it's 50 or 20. I have to look that up. Are in the same boat as well. And there are other schools. New York, here in the Bronx, New York, we have the same some other states as well. When you hear some someone like Ron DeSantis that says, listen, when you have an AP course that has certain things that shouldn't be in there, maybe you should listen first on what's in, those programs. Because it's not teaching kids history or reading or writing or arithmetic. It's teaching activism and politics. This is why our colleges have failed, our children. Kids going in for a gender studies program. Why do they need a gender studies program? Why? What job are they going to have? And that's the stupid thing. You get people who are in social media, all these tech companies, gender studies degree. No tech experience, nothing at all, just a gender studies degree. This is why I say we need SHOP. We need home economics back in the schools. And there are some on both sides of the aisle that agree with me. That they're saying there, yes, we need this back in our schools. Kids do not need to hear about sex, LGBTQ. They're young, they're kids. They need to read, to write, mathematics. They need to put cursive fucking writing back in our school system. A lot of these kids can't sign their own names. We have gone back to the 1800s. Those jokes that you see, I'll give you an example. The Clint Eastwood films where Clint Eastwood played a Marshall and he says like, well, put your signature there. He said, Marshall, I can't read or write. I said, well, just put your X on there and we'll read back what you're putting your X on. Think about that for a minute. Think about that. Right now, if you have children, go to your child. Ask if your child can sign his or her name. Ask them. Ask them truly. You're going to be surprised. See, this is the same people that they're trying to get rid of school choice, of all these independent schools. The other part of it, you're seeing this out, is those who are in charge of the education unions is an issue. Even here in New York, we're seeing kids, the teachers don't give a shit. Some of them that are good teachers are getting their ass kicked in the schools with no help at all, so they give up on the kids. The other half have given up on the kids because they didn't want to be educators to begin with. They just want to get the money and and the ability to say, hey, what the fuck? I'll make my $100,000 a year, and that's it. They're pushing these kids through. If you haven't seen the Baltimore issue, the Baltimore stories, take a moment and go see. They're pushing kids through schools without the education that they're supposed to have. And on top of that, they're gaining millions and millions of dollars with students that don't even exist on their rolls. There was one kid, he was in jail during the session where he was supposed to be in class, and they said, oh yeah, he was in class, he took the class, and he'll graduate, but he was still in jail. I think for robbery or whatever it was. This is what they want to do to us. They want to turn us into just literally, back to the old days again. There's a movie called Elysium. Have you ever seen Elysium with, is it Ben Affleck? No, not Ben Affleck. Matt Damon. And you see how the people are living and you see how the elites are living. That is what they want to happen to this world. They want to take away your cars. They want to take away your homes. They want to take away all your things and leave you with nothing. Eating what they tell you to eat. Educating you with true misinformation, with information that is just activism and radicalization. This is what they do, and they must be stopped. So pay attention, those of you in this country, pay attention to your politicians and the rules that they're trying to push out. You know, tell them you want the bills to be read. You would love to get a copy of the bill that they're pushing so you can read it. You know, we should have the right to read every bill that gets put into Congress. We should, because they sneak things in there that shouldn't be in there. You know, it has happened. It's happened on both sides for decades now. So please comment in the comments lines below. I do want to hear your thoughts to the situation, because this is an important issue. You have guys overseas wants to take away our rights. They want control of our country. This is one of the reasons why the colonists left England and came to this country, because of the rules and regulations that were imposed on them. They couldn't be the way they wanted to be in their own country, so they left it and created the United States of America. Anyone tells you wrong, they say, oh, the horrible, it was made up on slavery and this and that. No, it wasn't. That's what they want to tell you it did. We had our issues, but so did the whole entire world. And if it wasn't for the West, especially the United States, a lot of the slavery would still be here, and a lot of the other issues. So remember that. Comment, subscribe, like, share, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye now.